Hey folks, Jason back again, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Sonos Arc, my 6 months or more of having the Sonos Arc in my home theater setup, along with the Sonos Sub and a couple of Sonos Play 1s as the satellites. I was really interested to see how this would go. Now, if the last time you saw me do anything about my home theater setup, I was using two Apple HomePods, the HomePod biggies, the ones that they don't sell anymore. I was using two of those, and I was really pleased with it. It worked really well with the Apple TV. However, I really wanted to get into Dolby Atmos. When Apple changed things up with Apple Music and brought out Dolby Atmos spatial audio, whatever you want to call it, as well as lossless audio, I really wanted to spend some time getting into Dolby Atmos. I had never done the Dolby Atmos thing before, so I thought this was the best time, and the Sonos system with the Arc was probably going to be the best way for me to do it because, as I said in my last video, having a huge separate system with all kinds of speakers and everything else going on was just not feasible for the size of our room, and the wife acceptance factor, the WAF, was not high with that system. And honestly, it didn't sound as good as I would want it to because it was not the right size for that room. So, Sonos Arc, Sonos Sub, Sonos Play 1s, and let's talk about what it is that I was able to get out of that. It's not a cheap system, but it might just be the best system that I've used thus far. So what you see down below the TV there is the Sonos Arc, which I was not so sure about. I mean, it claimed to do surround sound, Dolby Atmos, all that kind of thing. And I've never found a soundbar that I liked. Nor did I ever find a soundbar that really seemed like it gave me any kind of semblance of what I could get from actual speakers. The Sonos Arc is the difference. I have been extremely impressed with the sound from the Sonos Arc from the very beginning. It's really forgiving in terms of where you put it. It also is very loud, very crisp, very clear when it comes not only to movies, but also to music. I actually like listening to music with this. And one of the nice things about listening to music with this, if you're using an Apple TV, is you can listen to the Dolby Atmos spatial audio stuff through Apple Music and get a real sense of what that sounds like in a larger room. Now, of course, only the Sonos Arc would just sort of approximate it. But what I've been able to do with this setup is also down there on the bottom left, get the Sonos Sub at like $700 is crazy expensive, and I never wanted to spend the money for it. But I have to admit that I'm glad that I did. The Sonos Arc itself is $800. But when I have this LG C9 TV that is still honestly one of the best looking TVs I've ever seen in my life, and then I have the PlayStation 5 and I have the Xbox Series X, it makes sense to spend the money. My wife didn't really like the idea of having a huge amount of speakers in the room. I did want to try out Dolby Atmos, so I went ahead and got the Sonos Arc, I got the Sonos Sub, and then I also have back here two Sonos Play 1s in this upper position. So that gives me more height and more surround. And honestly, as somebody who was not quite sold on the whole idea of Dolby Atmos, I am a believer entirely in Dolby Atmos now. And if it's as good as it is right now, then it's going to only get better. The one thing I can say is that while the Sonos Arc does sound good, I have to recommend getting the Sonos Sub along with it. The difference that you get when you have the Sonos Sub is it just fills everything out. The Sonos Arc has small speakers in it. They do have a nice range to them, but they can't get those low lows. So the Sub made a huge difference in the overall sound of everything that I was doing when I put that in there. So even though I was reluctant to spend the money, I'm glad that I did. If you're curious about the other stuff that's around the room, Of course, right here, I have mounted my PS5. I've got my PS5 controller here. Then below that, my PS5 handheld controller, a hook for my headphones. Over here, of course, I have my Xbox Series X controller. This is the satellite for my Amplify Alien wireless router. I have the power cord and the Ethernet coming down here. Everything goes straight behind there. Then everything is tacked to the wall with grommets, and I made it look as clean as I could. Then back up here, this is the cable for my Apple TV, as well as the Ethernet cable that I have plugged into the Apple TV. And then I have behind here another power strip that's coming straight down here, coming across and plugging into the wall. So that's it. The Sonos Arc with the Sonos sub, Sonos Play Ones as the surround sound. It's been really fantastic. There were some hiccups here and there early on where the Play Ones would get disconnected and I would have to reconnect them, and the tuning that you can do was not, it wouldn't stick. It wouldn't stay. Sonos seems to have updated some software somewhere along the way that they've got that working, and I haven't had any problems with it for many months now, and I have been extremely pleased with the overall sound. The thing about the Dolby Atmos sound is that if it's working right, you're not necessarily hearing directional stuff in the way that you used to hear with just regular 5.1 surround sound. It's sort of like a dome of sound that you hear, and it's not as noticeable when you're hearing it, but it is definitely noticeable when it's not there. For the price of the sub and the Arc, you would have a great system with just those two things. Very expensive system, but a great system. You can get the Sonos Play Ones, which still will work, and they sound really good. And basically, I just got the Sonos Play Ones and a couple of, I think it was $25, cheap speaker mounts that I got from Best Buy, and I just put them up there. It might not be the prettiest looking thing, but they're pointed at the back of my head, so it doesn't really matter. And overall, this is probably the best, most full-sounding, full-featured surround sound system that I've had thus far. And the Sonos Arc is probably the most impressive Sonos device that I've used to this point. So, if you're in the market for something and the price tag doesn't scare you away, I can't recommend it more highly. Really impressive stuff. Once again, thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. My name is Jason. I'll be back again real soon with another video. But until then, until the next time, I'm out.